Welcome to part 3 of this slideshow presentation. We are back coming to you from off the grid after midnight. So, in this part 3, we're going to wrap things up. It's going to be a shorter segment. And if you haven't already watched part 1 and part 2, you're probably going to want to do that. I'm going to have a PDF out in a few days that is going to expand upon these ideas. And of course, please visit my website, alexansary.tv, if you would like to support my work. So we're going to kind of review where we left off at, going back a few slides. Again, what can I do? Recenter yourself, learn the tools, okay, maintaining balance within body, mind, and spirit, using the solar cycle to our advantage, releasing excess energy, finding a spiritual practice that works for you. There's going to be major changes going on in your body, your hormonal state, other aspects of your consciousness. And so you want to be aligned with the changes that are taking place. There's a reason why people travel during certain times. It's not just because of Labor Day or things to that effect. There are other reasons why people are motivated to do what they do. There are reasons why we see the martial arts fads, periods in which there's certain types of music coming out. And it's important to realize that we are electric beings. So we got to release this excess energy and work to make the solar cycles work for us instead of against us. A lot of people are running around without this knowledge and information. So this is the time to be writing, building new structures, homes, communities, friendships, art, music, documentary films, keeping your mind on your water and diet. So we discuss meditation and the importance of deep breathing, looking at different types of practices like vipassana, sun gazing, sometimes exposing yourself to music. And with regards to that, tuning forks, a much more natural sound than just simply listening to a CD. There's a reason why people are drawn to certain concerts, even outdoor concerts. I was actually um, viewing part of a festival recently where there was actually a sign saying, "Don't stand right behind the tent." And the reason why, and people were standing off to the side, the sound flow. So it hits the people in the back, and they have that experience of hearing that music in real time as they sit there outdoors and feel the rain and feel the sunshine. There's a reason why people are drawn to those things. There are so many articles in YouTubes that you can find that'll teach you how to ground yourself and how important this is. And the core of psychic protection, by the way, protecting your mind from intrusion, is having a strong aura. So our auras, our energy fields, and things of that nature, even though some people aren't aware that it's not just the plant that has a magnetic field. Okay, it's us as well. And when we look at the statements left behind by Manly P. Hall and others, the idea of right moral action, being a good person, drawing positive things to us, and keeping this at the forefront of our consciousness, understanding that there are effects of our actions. We have to be responsible, not irresponsible. This isn't about irresponsibility or blaming the sun. It's being responsible for what is going on in our consciousness and our own energetic field. So, creation and manifestation, there's a mindful way to do that. Our minds are linked. Okay, we are one to a certain degree, and a lot of this information comes down to that the oneness concept and principle, in which many people have forgotten. Burl Payne has done experiments on the effects of mass meditations, and the power of non thought gets into this in greater detail. And so, the important thing to understand is that our consciousness could be applied together mindfully or unmindfully. So, instead of being affected by the propaganda, how do we counter that with something positive? What examples of that are we seeing in our world or our community? Or are we seeing more reactionary behavior? By being aware of how the sun influences our reality and moods, we can redirect it and be self responsible, using the mind's ability to affect change. Okay, so the sky's the limit on this one. And there's a reason why, movies like The Matrix and Dark City and others, there are references to knowing that you can, believing that you can, understanding why you're here, activating your superpowers, if you will, through trial and tribulation and challenge, by being challenged or being challenged right now in the world. And it's important to remember we are at our most powerful during these times. So we want to focus on mindful offensive movement, not violence, but proactive, not just simply being defensive and just, reacting. You want to get out of that monkey mind. You want to be proactive, moving forward, creating what is right and dismantling what is wrong, bobbing and weaving when we can see the blows coming, and having the foresight to see those blows coming. A clear mind, a clear spirit, a clear body, bouncing back, knowing our truth, speaking our truth, and the truth will set us free. Directing the shifting in our brains to higher levels of awareness, perception, and capability. Harnessing the power of the sun. Expanding alternative media and the free press and the things that we're doing, launching events, projects, new political parties, organizing mass gatherings, and mindful protests, as opposed to things that are taking place now. Mass meditations focused on specific positive realities and outcomes. Not a bunch of people thinking anger, anger, either at one politician or another. People not letting their energies getting co-opted as certain controlled movements, but specific positive realities and outcomes from the grassroots. Developing independent communities and responding not with fear to staged events, but information. Again, documentary filmmaking, independent media. I can speak for what sings to my heart, and I'm sure you can find things that speak to your heart. All these things relate to self responsibility, not blaming the sun. And a quote from Gandhi: a small body of determined spirits fired by an unquenchable faith in their mission can alter the course of history. And I want you to think about that. As we go through these changes, as we see these natural disasters, our consciousness has power. There are people out there that have promised us a collective shift in consciousness and things of that nature. I'm not here to promise you that, or that the whole world is going to wake up. But I also believe that a small body of determined spirits, fired by unquenchable faith in their mission, can alter the course of history. And it could be argued that that's what we're doing here, to learn that we have these abilities. Once you learn and understand that they are running problem, reaction, solution, and staging events, as I talked about in part two, then we can step back and go, well, what is it that we're not seeing? What are they trying to distract us from? Why are they trying to keep us in a state of fear? Why is there a cascade of events at once during a period in which we should be focused solely on our spiritual growth and evolution, and not our soul being entrapped to this world of man? Dark City, like The Matrix, came out around the same time. And the main character in this movie, and I believe it's still free for YouTube, wakes up in his reality. And he wakes up to a reality where everyone else is sleeping. He wakes up to a reality where these controllers, and some even call them archons, are seeking to manipulate time and human consciousness. And they find themselves, these spiritual parasites, obsessed with this man because of his abilities. He doesn't realize that that's what's going on for a while, until he starts to realize that some of the things that were in his memories were implants. And he goes upon a process of self discovery as these spiritual entities attempted to set him up for a murder. The question is, why were they after this particular human being? Why were they studying his mind from this parallel dimension? And so you really get a Gnostic spiritual view through Hollywood, even if many people that saw this movie didn't understand that concept. And so, as we can see, the manipulators altering events, altering consciousness, things of that nature, we can also see parallels in our own world and people seeking to wake up from whatever this particular matrix is. But these particular characters in Dark City are working with the artificial light and very, very focused on their point of study, a human being with light and consciousness. And somehow, some way, they are studying his consciousness so they themselves can evolve beyond their own nightmare, whether they know it or not. They're trapped in hell. At the conclusion of Dark City, our main character here starts harnessing the power of his mind, the power of his consciousness. Like Neo in the Matrix, he began to know that he was the one, at least the one to play that role, not necessarily a prophet over the planet, but the one to play that role in that moment, and to acknowledge his own power over those archonic forces. And that's really what the movie is about. But how different is Dark City from our own reality as we also start waking up? There's a reason why we have this knowledge, and there's a reason why we're being challenged. And that's the message that I'm here to bring you. It's not an accident why we're here. It's not an accident that we're seeing a conjunction of events, problem, reaction, solution events, as we experiencing these major influxes of energy coming in from the cosmos. We've got to turn the tables and use that energy ourselves to free ourselves. And like movies like They Live and others, call it the takedown of the dark grid. If we were to put our minds together, if we were to, at the same point in time, align our consciousness and see our own freedom, see our own liberation. Think about those situations and stories we've heard about someone in a life or death situation, maybe a car crushing the body of their child, and a mother, through her own consciousness, summoning the power, the strength, and also that adrenaline to lift the car up over her child. Now, think about the epochs and cycles that we're going into. We've been taught to fear the sun. But how accidental is that? We are seeing the potential for this Tower of Babel to collapse. We are seeing the threat of transhumanism, the merger of man and machine. And it literally threatens the human species in a way that we haven't been threatened in a long, long time. They teach us to fear the sun. But the sun is the ultimate reset. A massive, like on the type of Ed Dames discussing the kill shot, not only are we dealing with consciousness, evolutions, and even on a genetic level, and intellectual level is already discussed. But what about something like the cycle restoring our world to nature? While they teach us to be afraid of the grid going down. And yes, many people could pass on to the other side. But how do we know that's not the plan of nature? To restore our world, to restore our lives, to restore our relationships to something more natural than what it is now. As we see people's dependency on the monetary system, addiction to the internet, addiction to their smartphones. Should we really be fearing the sun? Or are we going to grow, many of us, to a new level of consciousness to where we see the role that the sun is going to play in our future, in restoring our world to nature? That is how I choose to look at the future. It is, in fact, not an apocalyptic vision, and it is not loaded with fear. The events that we're seeing now is like the bubbling to the surface. It is a process. As we learn about the rise and fall of civilizations and the potential evidence of this as we look at Maurice Carter Ellsberg. We look at our world now with 7 billion people. And many people are going, what is it going to take for the population to restore itself to something more sustainable? I have a suspicion. I have a suspicion. And I think so do many of you. So I'm going to leave you with that thought. We don't have to go into the future with fear. There's another option, and there's another reality that's coming our way sooner